After we moved farther inland, we received orders to set up the mortars on the inland side of a Japanese pillbox and prepare to fire on the enemy to our company's front. We asked Company K's Gunnery Sergeant W.R. Saunders, if he knew of any enemy troops in the bunker. It appeared undamaged. He said some of the men had thrown grenades through the ventilators, and he was sure there were no live enemy inside. Snafu and I began to set up our mortar about 5 feet from the bunker. I heard something behind me in the pillbox. Japanese were talking in low, excited voices. Metal rattled against an iron grating. I grabbed my carbine and yelled, "Bergen, there are nips in that pillbox." All the men readied their weapons as Bergen came over to have a look, kidding me with, "Shucks, Sledgehammer, you're cracking up."
Cleared up the grenades. They must have checked. No, listen. Wake up, Sledge. Bergie. I'm sure. They're in there.
He looked into the ventilator port directly behind me. It was rather small, approximately 6 inches by 8 inches, and covered with iron bars about a ½ inch apart. What he saw brought forth a stream of curses in his best Texas style against all Nippon. He stuck his carbine muzzle through the bars, fired 2 quick shots, and yelled, "I got him right in the face." John Redifer and Vincent Santos jumped on top. Things got quiet. I was nearest the door, and Bergen yelled to me, "Look in and see what's in there, Sledgehammer." It nearly cost me my life. Not more than 6 feet from me crouched a Japanese machine gunner. His eyes were black dots in a tan, impassive face, topped with a familiar mushroom helmet. The muzzle of his light machine gun stared at me like a gigantic third eye. Fortunately for me, I reacted first. Behind us, Santos yelled that he had located a ventilator pipe without a cover. He began dropping grenades into it. Each one exploded in the pillbox beneath us with a muffled bam. When he had used all of his, Redifer and I handed him our grenades while we kept watch at the door. The Amtrak took up a position on a line even with us. Its commander, a sergeant, consulted Bergen. Then the turret gunner fired 3 armor-piercing 75mm shells at the side of the pillbox. Each time our ears rang with the familiar wham, bam, as the report of the gun was followed quickly by the explosion of the shell on a target at close range. But even before the dust settled, I saw a Japanese soldier appear at the blasted opening. He was grim determination personified as he drew back his arm to throw a grenade at us. My carbine was already up. When he appeared, I lined up my sights on his chest and began squeezing off shots. As the first bullet hit him, his face contorted in agony. His knees buckled. The grenade slipped from his grasp. All the men near me, including the Amtrak machine gunner, had seen him and began firing. The soldier collapsed in the fusillade, and the grenade went off at his feet. We kept up a steady fire into the pillbox to keep the Japanese pinned down, while the flamethrower came up, carried by Corporal Womack from Mississippi. Stooped under the heavy tanks on his back, Womack approached the pillbox with his assistant just out of the line of our fire. The assistant reached up and turned a valve on the flamethrower. Womack then aimed the nozzle at the opening made by the 75mm gun. He pressed the trigger. With a whoosh, the flame leaped at the opening. Some muffled screams, then all quiet. Even in the midst of these fast-moving events, I looked down at my carbine with sober reflection. I had just killed a man at close range. that I had seen clearly the pain on his face when my bullets hit him came as a jolt. It suddenly made the war a very personal affair. The expression on that man's face filled me with shame and then disgust for the war and all the misery it was causing. We thought the Japanese would never surrender. Many refused to believe it. Sitting in stunned silence, we remembered our dead. So many dead. So many maimed. So many bright futures consigned to the ashes of the past. As the troops used to say, if the country is good enough to live in, it's good enough to fight for. With privilege goes responsibility.